This is later times. This is just a year later after Billy Meier passed through mission. And that is my grandfather when he was in his late 80s. And myself just a year and a half before I left to come to the United States to pursue my university studies. The background a little bit on this is how ashram look all over the place. After that contact, when I was around 14, there was no more contact. The lady didn't visit me anymore, and I just continued, the normal life that a young teenager would grow into. Finished my high school, then was sent to United States to study my undergraduate in New York. As I continued my university studies, I have forgotten all about that contact. It's always, not so much as it never stayed in a place in my mind where it is utilized. I have a life of a person who is newly arrival of United States, newly college student, a new life in front of me. I could not have spent much time dwelling on what took place in my childhood. And so I continued studying, and even when at the time as I finished my undergraduate and continued on to my graduate studies, some people would come to me and talk about UFOs and all, and I would say, I don't believe in those. I've never seen any, and so on. Eventually, almost 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago, I think it was 5 years ago, Wendell, somebody handed me Gary Kinder's book called Light Years. So I looked at it and saw the picture of UFOs, and I thought, this is not my thing. I left it on the shelf and never touched it again. And I went on finishing my graduate work, went to help my country, became a diplomat, was sent back to New York to represent my country at the United Nations, worked at it for 12 years. And suddenly, one day I was cleaning and came across the book again. So I thought before I threw it away, I should look at it. I opened the page and saw the name Ashoka Ashram in one of those pages. So I was wondering, how could our place be named in this book? As I browsed through it, I saw the stories. And immediately, I thought, I bet you it is the same Swiss person that had stayed at our place when I was a child. So I thought, but how would I find out if this is the right person? I called up the publisher of that book, but nobody could. But finally, some kind person said, you should contact this person who he published another book called Message from Pleiades, and his name is Wendell. So I through some miracles, I don't know how I found his number, contacted Wendell and told him, I think, can you tell me if this is the right person who came to stay at my grandfather's place so many years ago, if it's the same being, and so on, and I would like to get in touch with him if he's still alive. And Wendell said, yes, he's still alive, but he doesn't meet anyone, he's very private. So many people came up to me and said they knew him before. I don't think he would want to meet you because so on. So I said, well, if this is the right person, can you tell me? Ask him if he has the monkey, and these are the name of the monkeys. If he's the person that I knew, if he has the monkey, it's the same person. So Wendell wrote to him, and I think Wendell said within an hour, Billy wrote back and said, where's those two children? And that's how, so a few months later I flew out to meet Billy at the center. I had only about 5 days then. But we sat and talked for 3 straight nights without sleep. It was almost like I felt I have returned home and he felt he has returned home. So it was just sharing of some part of him that he has not been able to share so much with a lot of people before. And so that is how I reconnect with Billy. Now I have talked so much, I would like to show you some of the pictures that I brought back. Slides, please. That will come back later. Yeah, that's just a story.
It'll take just a second. Number 1.
Okay, then maybe I'll go with the picture here first. If it takes long, I will go with the picture. Oh, okay. Oh, that is the... Oh. This is the background of the tip of the ashram, of the Ashoka ashram. The walls come up to that. The stone wall came up to here, and these are all trees from the. So this ship would appear at the time, usually would be around the same time as I have the visitation, or sometime no visitation, but I would see the ship. This was taken by Billy Meier and was presented to me when we first met. Not every day, but almost I would see it once a week or sometimes twice a week. There was no timing. Could I have next, please? This is the Dog Hill, I think. This is ship over the Ashoka ashram, but from an angle behind the Ashoka ashram, there's a little hill, and on top of, next to that hill, we have an area where we make a shelter for animal. It's part of the animal shelter stray animals, feeding and so on, taking care of animals, and we used to call it the Dog Hill. That's our name for it. So this was shot from the Dog Hill. And Billy spent a lot of time working at the animal shelter, help securing the animals and also feeding stray animals, mostly dogs and not monkeys, dogs, cows sometimes, and horses. This was taken on May 24, 1964. At 1:53 p.m. Next one. Yes, this was taken quite far away, way up high, just on the side towards the east of the ashram. Just 2 slides ball of fire, which sometimes I would see more than 2. There would be a whole bunch of them. The next one, please. The same one, but taken from. This is taken from a monument in that area It's called the Qutub Minar. This is an old Indian historical monument. It's taken near that area. This is Billy Meier's picture. He took these photos. And this is a very rare photos. He didn't show these photos a lot because this is a part of that contact when he had with Ascot. And so when I went to visit him, and he showed me all these pictures because we were just reminisce of the areas and the place and from which angle and so on. Because unless you have been there, you would know where and what in reference to the Ashoka ashram. The next one, please. Okay, this is a very interesting and also important to me. This is a whole bunch of them right on top of the Ashoka. This is the background of the place. You cannot see it very clearly of the reproduction here. But this is one of my ayah washing my clothes, sitting on the veranda outside my room. This here sitting, she's washing here my school uniform. Because in the his original photos, it's much more clear. So we shared this story, and because he had interacted with her quite a bit, the washing lady. For me, it's very important because when I had my experience, it was not something, for me it was very natural. I have seen a lot of ships over the temple or over the, we have a large area over the trees, near the well, on the doghouse, all these areas that I have seen the ships. Sometimes it was very low. I could see a huge, it's almost like, one time I saw maybe half of this room size of the ship. And sometimes I see very small, further away. It was nothing strange. It was not something that caused me to run with excitement to ask some adults or my grandfather or my ayah or my governess what I see. It was a very natural phenomena for me. So when I had experiences with Ascot, it was also not something very unusual or strange for me. It was almost, it's the most natural, but it's almost like a return to some known, familiar state. Could we have the next one, please? Oh, I think this. I think this is the one. Yeah, I think one of the balls descended down, and that's what produced this beautiful phenomena. The next one. Yes, this is an amazing one. This one. I wrote it. This phenomena, when it shows up like this, it's usually followed by an appearance, another disc, and it, of course, the shape is the craft shape that flows about in and out of the cloud overhead of people. Sometimes there would be a few villagers walking around, and they would look up and see this. In the ashram itself, sometimes our servant would come and said, I saw something very strange. Have you seen? I would say yes, and that was the end of it. There was nothing further to be said. Next one, please. This is right on top of the ashram in the evening. I remember this very well because sometimes there would be people looking up with me, looking up, and some of them would see the ship very clearly like myself, but some would look at us and said, I don't see it. I don't know where is it. And it's not a very small spot. It's a big spot. But some will not be able to see it. I don't know whether, living in India with villagers around might not have good eyesight. I don't know. I used to think that way. But now I think it might be some other problem. Next one. The same. Next one, please. I think this is one of the phenomena where hundreds of people saw this. This one, I think, had been witnessed by a whole, I think maybe 100 people. Even was written in the Indian newspaper in the 60s. Actually, one reporter was dispatched from the newspaper, I think the New Statesman or something. If we dig, we could find the article. He came, talked to the villagers, talked to people who work at our place, and was shown, and even talked to Billy and was shown the photos. And he wrote an article about this and interviewed a lot of eyewitnesses. Next, please. Well, that's Billy and his family. That's Billy. Of course, the boy in the red shirt is Methuselah, and and the sister, and the baby Atlantis, I think. And no, who's that? Oh, I see. Well.
Okay, that's all the slides.
Thank you. I would like to go back to the pictures and tell a little story before I sum up, because I think you have a good idea of what this. The picture of the temple. This is. It's an inner part of the temple. Yes. In this picture, it shows my grandfather sitting in front of the altar, the temple, with a lot of Indian visitors. This area I want to show you is because one evening when I finished my lessons with my tutor, I came in and I saw my grandfather sitting right there with two beings. And for some unknown reason, I don't know why I knew right away that these beings were not with us, are not from here, were not the being that comes from the earth. But they do not look any different. They were two males, all in some kind of white gown, kind of a darkish complexion, very, very beautiful but very thin, talking to my grandfather. And I quietly went in and sat near to them and listened to the conversation. I did not hear anything much, but I understood, or at least what I got from that conversation between my grandfather and these two beings, was that they were very grateful to my grandfather for having taught the spiritual teachings of the Buddha, also teaching meditation. This is what I got, that they were very grateful that we are learning meditation, and we have many seekers that went to him to study certain form of meditation that he was teaching at that time. And that's how I was sitting there listening, and suddenly I turned around and they were no more. They were there 1 minute and they were not there the next minute. So afterwards, I went over to my grandfather and asked him, where were they? And they said, yes, this is how they come and this is how they will leave. And I was quite satisfied with that answer, because I have no reason to have any more doubts or to not understand what he meant. And that was the same spot that you saw him sitting with the visitors. I have put all this together to share with you, much as it is kind of excruciating for me. It is a little difficult. You might think it's not that hard to share such thing, but it is hard for me. It is because it's very, very personal, as I said again, and it's very deep. So 4 years ago, close to 5 years now, I reconnected again with Billy. After that letter, I went to visit him, and as I shared with you, that we spent 3 nights talking without sleep and sharing so much. And throughout those conversations, there are other memories that open up, and I kind of shared with Billy, and he confirmed it, and he told me that he had always thought of the 2 little children and what happened to them. He also shared that he was always told that we will also reconnect in sometime in the future. And so I still feel a closeness with him ever since we reconnect. Last year in November, I went back and spent 2 weeks with my husband to introduce my husband to him, and we continued on as it's almost like a family to me. But this closeness I cannot describe, whether it's friends or family or what, but it is something more, maybe something less, but there is a closeness of this, the beingness of all that we are here. Thank you. Thank you very much. I've forgotten. I have just one more thing to share with you. I have a friend in India. She was with me when I was growing up in India. I found her when she came to visit the United States. So I brought her here to share with you briefly. I think Michael will give you.
I think okay for me. Okay. Well, I think it's time to wind up. And before I wind up, I would like to share a few things with you. But in reference to what my friend has shared, her experiences already, I met her when her grandfather engaged me as her tutor for her and her brother to teach the Indian language, Hindi, and we became friends right then. It's been quite long, you see, because we lost contact in between, and it's just like reconnecting again. So, like when I used to teach her, he had been a very good student, but after my teaching is over, we would just sit and chat, or we just go out, walk in the garden, and talk. And sometimes she would talk to me weird things, and she'll say, oh, you see, last night a woman came to my room, she sang to me, and she put me to sleep. Oh, okay. Or sometimes she would say, you know, I saw a spacecraft. Fine. Or she would say, oh, you know, Shashi, oh, there's a woman who also talks to another guy, and she seems to be similar. Well, that woman later I learned is Ascot, and the person she talked about is Billy Meier. And I did not have much experience seeing the spacecraft while she was there. Later, when she left for the States for further studies, I had seen the spacecrafts hovering over the temple. They were similar, round discs with a hub and light emitting light, a strong beam. They would appear as if they were going to land, but they would never make a landing, just hover around for some time. And then they just take a turn and then just go off, you know, they just disappear. But still, you know, I doubted what she had been talking to me. Until one day, while I was taking a walk with her, I saw a whole community of people from the dog hill she mentioned before. I saw a whole community of people tending to a field, busy doing their work. They didn't turn around to look at us, but I was going crazy because I thought maybe, you know, I'm having a vision or something wrong with me. I thought maybe I'll fall down. And in that very instant, when I looked again, I just saw the sight, and I saw the fields. They were geometric in pattern, but not the crop, not in circles as the crops we saw, but geometric like a star or a triangle like that. And the people who were tending to the fields were tall enough, taller than me, of course. They were wearing like long white dresses, and they were bending. The kids were there too. And that flash I always carry in my mind, but I had no one who could explain to me what I saw. But from that day, earlier I used to just brush off whatever she used to tell me as an imagination. But from that day onwards, I became serious. I understood her better, and I became a better person. Regarding Billy Meier, I have an amusing anecdote. She told me, like as she told you just now, that he had two pet monkeys whom he called Emperor Hanuman and Empress Hanuman. Hanuman, as you know, is the Indian monkey god who is venerated for power, for strength, and for protection. So I told her, I said, Phobol, see, what a good combination and what good company they make. See, an animal god and a human cat, because Billy in Hindi means cat. So I said, just see the company, how good they make. A human cat and an animal god. And we laughed. And I carried that anecdote in my mind forever. And the time period she said we were not, she was not in touch while as a student or as a diplomat. I was in India. Now she is reconnecting again with Billy Meier. I'm back with her. It's a stepping stone for me to know the unknown realms and learn more about our planet. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Rashi and Sashi. And you see, This is what is the really impressive thing about the Billy Meier contact. It is not one man going out on his motorbike in a forest in Switzerland taking pictures. It is dozens of people who have life-changing experiences. And that's what the new investigation which we opened last year and where you get the first results is proving and will prove. The Billy Meier contact is much, much more. And maybe it can also change your life, and maybe it can change the world. Because indeed, we are not alone. What we will do now, thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. What we will do now.
Thank you.